The subject that we'll talk over today is sports psychology in gymnastics. So, a little bit of overview of gymnastics. It can be done by men and women. The only difference is that men compete in 6 and women compete in 4. The 4 events that women compete in are vault, balance beam, floor, uneven bars, and then men compete in floor, parallel bars, high bar, pommel horse, rings, and vault. The ultimate goal of gymnastics is to get a perfect score. Although it's not done very often, that is the goal. Young girls start gymnastics training at the age of 5, and boys tend to start at a slightly older age. This is because strength is required, and that's not developed until adolescence in boys. So whenever a gymnast begins to compete seriously, they'll train for about 20 to 30 hours a week. So the common psychological issue faced by gymnasts, there are four that I'm going to hone in on. The first one is anxiety, which is a common complaint in young gymnasts. But if you channel it correctly, it can be used in a positive way. It can increase effort and preparation. But if you use it in a negative way, it can decrease your performance ability. A few things that kind of create anxiety are intensive training for several hours, competition anxiety, parental pressures, and coaching pressures. There are 3 techniques that you can use to decrease the anxiety. One is deep breathing, which is just inhaling and exhaling, and with each exhale you just release the tension from your body. Muscle relaxation, which is the tensing and the relaxing of muscle groups throughout the body. You begin with the hands and the arms, then you go to the head and the body, then the legs and the feet. Then you have cue controlled relaxation. You just choose a cue word that helps you relax. So that gives you the cue to say, hey, I need to calm down, I just need to take a breather. The article that I read that had to do with this topic, it just basically talked about how difficult it can be for gymnasts to concentrate on their performance when anxiety is built up. And it basically just talked about how just the same techniques that can be used to calm them down. So the article was basically saying anxiety is a big thing in gymnastics, and it just went over the 3 techniques that I had just mentioned. The next one is focus. Focus is incredibly important, simply because there's always a high risk of injury if you're not focusing or paying attention to what you're doing or the surroundings around you. You need to be able to maintain focus on specific events that you are competing in at that particular moment, but you also must be able to maintain focus and be aware of what's going on around you. This is just to prevent injury, crashes, or anything like that. A couple things that you can do is to help focus. The main one is imagery. Imagery develops intentional focus. So you just close your eyes and you just imagine yourself doing the routine, executing it correctly, just focusing and honing in on your job. But also you need to maintain peripheral vision around you so that you are able to see if there is any danger coming towards you. The third one that I'm going to talk about is confidence. Confidence is key when it comes to gymnastics, simply because gymnasts are constantly being challenged with new skills that are incredibly dangerous, and confidence is needed to perform these skills correctly. Perfection is the ultimate goal in gymnastics. If they feel like they're making a mistake, that can lower the confidence, and it can sometimes be difficult to get back, but it also can be dangerous. Gymnastics is the most judged sport simply because minor errors or fractions of a point can make a huge difference in someone's score. That's why I was saying it was so difficult to achieve a perfect score of 10, because every little thing, every little error that you make, it can be docked in that score. So a good way to handle this is have social support. That can be from interactions with your friends, messages from your parents, peers, coaches, and one big thing is history of success. Knowing that you've had success in this sport before will help you have success in it again. But the biggest thing for building confidence or having confidence is positive self-talk and imagery. It's difficult, especially when gymnasts are facing pressures to learn new and harder skills that involve risking injury. So confidence is extremely important to have when they're trying to do a new skill. So the article that I found about this topic was basically they did a study with the Olympic gymnasts. And what they did was they lowered the vaults about 5 centimeters. And in gymnastics, everything needs to be on point. The slightest difference in centimeters or anything like that can be detrimental to a gymnast's performance. So what they did was they lowered the vault 5 centimeters, and then they had the gymnasts run the event like they normally would. And of course, being that there was a huge difference in what they're used to, they made a mistake. But the point of the study was to see even if the gymnasts made that mistake, were they able to regain that confidence back. Basically just seeing if a confidence shaking event will prevent them from performing proficiently at the next event. And the results of that is that they were able to regain their confidence, they were able to regain their composure, and were able to perform well in the next event. So the last issue that I will talk about is negative thinking. It is believed that sport is the perfect environment to foster irrational thinking. This is most prevalent when a gymnast is trying to learn new skills and they're telling themselves, I'm never going to get it, I can't do this. This is the perfect time when someone can think themselves into negativity. The biggest thing is for them is that body image can increase negative thinking, simply because when you're younger, you're able to move your body in, different ways, different twists and turns at a faster pace. But once you get older, once you go through puberty and you get to your adolescence and things start growing, it's a lot harder for a gymnast to flip as fast and run as fast. And so they need to have that mindset of, this is what I want to do. I'm going to work my butt off to get there, to get faster and everything else. Poor performance can lead to negative thinking, especially when a gymnast is having an off day with a certain event or just at the competition. That can foster some negative thinking at the next competition. So one thing they can do to remove all of that is thought replacement, and this is going to take a conscious effort. So if a gymnast had a poor performance and in their head they're saying, I can't do this, I sucked at this competition, they need to make it a point to replace that thought with something positive. Like, I know I messed up at this competition, but this is a new competition and I'm going to do my very best. So the conclusion of all of this is that the mental side of any sport is important, but especially in gymnastics. In order for a gymnast to perform and enjoy what they do, gymnasts need to master a multitude of psychological skills. They need to be able to go through the anxiety, the self-confidence issues, the negative thinking. They need to be able to handle that themselves. They need to be able to know how to handle those emotions. It's useful for gymnasts to learn these skills, to cope with them at a young age, like they would with any other skill. When you're young, you're resilient. So if you're taught to, replace thoughts when you're thinking negatively, or when you're taught to breathe and relax when you have anxiety when you're young, it will be the easiest thing to do when you get older. But the ultimate goal of gymnastics is to, enjoy and safely participate in the sport, especially if it's something that you love.